All right. Well, Paul, thank you very much for being on this call with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So my name is Paul ONEID. I am the head coach of Master Athletic Performance. I'm also the co-founder of Coach's Corner University with Tony Montgomery. I've been a strength coach for over 15 years, various universities across Canada and the US. I have 2 master's degrees, one in exercise science and one in sports management, and just took the leap actually to full-time coaching remotely recently. So looking forward to the new challenges that await with that.
That's really crazy. It's amazing how many things that you're able to do if you just like organize and prioritize your time correctly. A lot of people try to like give off this feeling of I don't have time and I can't really focus on things, but you're doing it. And I've watched Coach's Corner. I've been sitting down with Rob to look at different things and listen and watch and look at you on the social media. And you're able to be an athlete as much as you're able to be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see yourself? Are you able to see yourself as both equally?
Well, I think if you are going to coach people, there needs to be an element of accountability on your part with regards to the product that you're putting forward. So a good way to put it is that I try to be the product of my product, right? I'm a representation of what I'm trying to get out of my athletes. So the same accountability that I ask for from them, I'm asking for from myself. I'm of no delusion that I'm not the athlete that I once was. I mean, when I was competing at the highest level in powerlifting, I was ranked in the top 20 all time in 2 different weight classes. I'm simply not able to do that anymore, just from a physical standpoint, from a sacrifice standpoint, towards my health. And I have a lot of other things going on, but that is still a large part of who I am and what I do. As a coach, if I'm going to mentor others to be as attentive to the needs of their clients as I expect that a coach should be, I have to be the ideal for which to shoot for, right?
Right.
I will never attach my name to something I'm not proud of, and I try my best. And like, I'm human, right? Nobody's perfect, but I try my best to provide to someone else what I wish I had when I was coming up.
That's awesome, man. That's kind of where the reason why I got into fitness was because I was just a weekend warrior that was in a gym working out in a CrossFit. I hurt my knee playing outside of the place. And then I went to my coach. I said, Coach, I don't know, something snapped in my knee. And he was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just keep working out. It'll go away. So eventually just that turned into a shattered meniscus and slowed me down. And I was like, I can't believe that I'm not getting the answers for nutrition from a lot of coaches. I'm not getting the answers for recovery, for health. Yeah, I'm just getting the answers of lift 82.5% today, 7 times. And that's like, I didn't like that, you know? So I'm glad that you're taking that route. A lot of coaches need to hear that and need to do that. That's very exemplary of you, you know? I'm going to ask you a couple of questions to see also like, where do you come from as far as how you've changed over time? Because I know that going from an athlete to a coach or to a business owner is also a thing, you know? What is your best investment financially that you've ever made in that transition from athlete to coach?
I would say that I've been a coach longer than I've been an athlete. I actually became an athlete to be a better coach. Like I did it backwards. So when I was at the University of South Florida, I came down as this, husky white kid, 5'9", from Canada with a weird accent, trying to coach these kids who are going to make multi-million-dollar contracts in the NFL. Who gives a fuck what I have to say? Excuse my language. And my boss approached me one day and he's kind of like, hey, how do you feel? I'm like, I think I know what I'm doing, but these kids don't listen to me. And he goes, because you're different from them. They need to see that you are someone to look up to. You've never played college football. You're not like a crazy strength athlete. There's nothing about you that stands out to them as special. And like those are first, like that's tough to hear, right? It's like you're not special. When you're young, it's not what you want to believe. My mom always told me I was special.
Yeah.
And so I was like, listen, I'm really fucking strong. I'm just going to compete in being really fucking strong. So at the time I could squat almost 600 pounds, you know, like which back then was crazy.
Yeah.
So I did a meet, and as soon as I did that meet and the kids saw me training for the meet, I immediately had credibility with them. So I just kept competing. It was what I could lean on in terms of, hey, I need you to do this because I'm willing to do it myself. So that's how I got into powerlifting. Transitioning from, you know, being a coach to being a business owner has been challenging because the exchange of money has always been something that is difficult for me, because I value money very highly. So
Right.
to ask for what I would consider to be a large sum of money is hard, even though I know that you're not paying for the piece of paper or the weekly email or the video call or whatever. You're not paying for that. You're paying for the 15 years of education and experience beforehand.
Right.
And you are investing in me so that I can invest in you, right? It's a reciprocal relationship. And I would say the biggest investment in my in my coaching has been, you know, moving to Florida initially. Like I was working as a personal trainer, I was working as a bouncer, I was working as a supplement store manager all at the same time. I saved $10,000 and quit all the jobs and moved from Ottawa, Ontario to Tampa, Florida for 4 months.
Wow.
And because I was an international student, I wasn't allowed to work. So I couldn't earn any money for those 4 months that I was living here, or living in the US, sorry. While I was there, I ended up getting admitted to the master's program at University of South Florida. So I started school, $21,000 a year. And I could not work. The only place I could work was Campus Rec for minimum wage, because it's the only place I could work on campus. About a year into that, I got a full-time position at Robert Morris University, $48,000 a year. But because I was working for the school, my tuition was paid for. I was there for 2 years. You know, they gave me $1,000 a month stipend for working 70 hours a week and going to school, right? GA. Then I graduated from Robert Morris and needed to finish my degree in Florida. So I went back to Tampa, took a job that was a stipend position as the associate strength coach at UT, finished my degree in 6 months, and then finally got my first full-time job after spending close to $250,000 on my education. Like I personally, I'm very grateful for my parents. They helped me out a lot during that. So I only was left with about $60,000 in debt. But my first full-time position at Queen's University as a head strength coach of 15 teams and 50 students,
Wow.
$53,000 a year.
Wow.
But I took that job because that's what I wanted to do.
So you think that probably one of your biggest investments has been you able to not value the money as much, but value what you are becoming out of saving and transitioning into the positions that made you who you are?
Absolutely, man. Like if you look back at that whole thing, I worked for free for a year and a half. Then I worked for $1,000 a month for 2 years, just so I could be a strength coach. And that's an investment that you make in yourself, so that hopefully later on in your life, you're able to reap the benefits of it. Now, the unfortunate reality is that in strength and conditioning, had I stayed in the US, it might have been a different story. And I interviewed for positions at Georgetown and VCU, and I would have gotten those jobs. But I wanted to come back to Canada. I wanted to come back home. And because at the time my brother had his first kid, so I wanted to be close to my family.
Right,
and,
close.
Yeah, so that to me it was worth it. I could still do the same job, but here, and it's like I look back and the number of experiences that I've had, the number of people I've met, the network I've built, the friendships I've made, the mentors that I've had, I would have paid 10 times that much.
Right. It becomes more valuable over time when you realize how much more you can use that information that you've learned. And that's amazing, because it a lot of the coaches that are going to be watching this still they're coming off of what I was taught was like, yeah, no, get in it and charge a lot of the money. You need to put yourself in the high of the value ladder. And it's no, a lot of the successful coaches that I've met have told me, no, you're going to be working for free for a little bit. It's going to be okay. And you're going to have to meet people, and they're going to refer you. And little by little, you'll find not only clients, but some of those clients will be mentors in a way that you don't know, you know?
Well, the other thing when you're setting your prices, you have to look at like who you want to work with, right? So
Right.
I set my prices the way they are. I still charge Canadian dollars because a lot of my clients are Canadian, which is a great discount for you guys in the US, about 30% discount. Use code USA is better than Canada. But I don't charge the top rates because I know that if,
Right.
say, if I know that some coaches up here are charging like $250 to $300 a month. Now, I charge that if you're doing training and nutrition, but if you're doing training only, I charge a rate that I know most people can afford, because the people I want to coach aren't the ones that can afford to pay $300 a month. And I've
Right.
heard the argument made that, you know, if they value it, they will afford it. And I'm sorry, a stonemason who deadlifts 800 pounds is not going to want to pay $300 a month for coaching, regardless
Right.
of how much value I add to his life. You know, so that's a decision that I made consciously. Could I charge more? Absolutely. But I can pay my bills. I'm doing just fine. And, you know, to me, that's enough. If you want to be the type of person who goes after that executive level client with, you know, who can pay $300-400 a month, you're having a weekly Skype call, that sort of thing, and you want to value your time per hour, absolutely, you should do that. And I do offer a product at that rate, but I don't have many people who can afford it. Right. So be respectful of your time, but also at this in the same breath, like if you want to work with who you want to work with, you might not be able to charge what you want to charge.
I like that, because it's a lot of self-awareness in your part, trying to figure out your pricing and how to, you know, what clients you want to have. That leads me into like, okay, you went from athlete and coach, and you were in that essence also a coach before and worked in it, and then into a business owner, which is essentially like, let's say, another sport, right? You have to learn it and go for it. What has been your favorite failure overall that has probably given you the most bang for your buck as far as changing you and developing you into who you are now?
I don't know if the word favorite is the right word, but the most impactful failure is my marriage. You know, I lost my marriage because I was so unilaterally focused on something, so enveloped in it that I was unable to see what was happening in the rest of my life. But through that failure, it held a mirror up to myself as a man. It held a mirror up to myself as a human being. And the amount of growth and development that came out of that was, you know, invaluable. It's why I'm sitting here today, you know, having achieved the things that I've achieved, being able to step away from a cushy full-time job to go into business for myself. But I think people are afraid to fail, because I think they're really afraid to invest themselves fully into something. You never get the full value of something in terms of your self evolution unless you invest yourself fully into it. And
Right.
if you invest yourself fully into it, you have to understand that the answer might be that you're not good enough
For that thing.
Right? And that caveat, right? For that thing, your lack of success is not a reflection of your competence or your self-worth. You're just not there yet. And if it's something that you want, you can put in that work, and you can proceed to do that. You know, I'm fully aware that there was a lot going on in my marriage beyond my work, but it really did hold a light up to me and be like, hey, like in this instance, in this endeavor, you weren't good enough. And that's okay. Doesn't make you a bad person, you know, but it should, however, make you strive to be a better person.
Yeah,
So that's all we can do.
It's definitely something very important, and it's tough. Yeah, I name it favorite failure, and you're right. Sometimes it's not a favorite failure, but it's most impactful. Mm-hmm. And I told Rob, when we talk about family and when it hits home like that, you know, I've always seen it as, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs build their business, build their family around their business. And then what I decided to do was, I think that it's important to build your business around your family. And then it's more of a, okay, the bricks are outside. I'm going to take care of what's inside and little by little build towards the outside from here. And I thank you for sharing that, because not everybody is able to talk about their failures, especially the ones that impact so close to home and to heart. Because as we grow, it's like, when you're young, you look at the lifting score and your social score with your friends and and the people out there. But when you grow up and you start thinking, this is Maslow's hierarchy of need. This is my end range. This is where I'm going to have my ins and outs. This is my forever. So it's not easy to talk about it, So I thank you very much, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have asked me to talk about more of that stuff that we don't talk about. I know Rob talks about mental health a lot in that essence. Let me go into this one now. What is the worst advice that you've been given, let's say as a coach? And so you're a high level coach, you're top of the line, but somebody has advised you, and maybe sometimes they've advised you wrong. Do you remember anything like that you've been given advice for to be a better coach, and that was not good for you? And probably coaches out there are getting that advice right now.
I don't know if it was bad advice per se, but I think one of the worst things that's being perpetuated these days is this the hustle porn. It's like you need to hustle all the time. The grind don't stop, don't take days off. I can tell you from personal experience, if you grind and don't take days off, you'll end up in the gutter. You're going to end up just in a not good place, mentally, physically, emotionally. Your work should be something that fulfills you and fills your cup. Yes, you do have to have things going on outside. I think people get into this headspace that, and maybe this was advice, because I was told early on that you had to invest your whole self into it. And I don't think that that's bad advice. What I think is bad implementation of advice is having your entire identity wrapped into one aspect, right? So if you are Paul the coach, well, I'm also Paul I'm Paul the dog owner, I'm Paul the brother, I'm Paul the son, I'm Paul the boyfriend, I'm all of these things. I'm Paul the athlete. I'm Paul the friend, and these are all parts of my life that need nurturing. So if you invest yourself wholly into one thing to the point where all of your self-worth comes from that area, if anything ever happens to that, your self-worth is in the gutter. You have no ego left. So to be able to pull from every aspect of your life and fill your cup from multiple other cups, right? My life is filled with so much love now. And that's not to say that it wasn't before, but I was very much blinded to that because I was so focused in this one direction. And I think a lot of young coaches need to realize that if you are coaching an amount of athletes that allows you to pay your bills, and you are comfortable in that sense where you can continue learning, continue growing, that doesn't mean everything in your life has to be centered around your job.
Right.
That's the whole reason. Like, I didn't have to quit my full-time job. Just like my last day is next week. I work probably 30 to 35 hours a week at a job that's very stable, provides me a good income. I have benefits. I have a pension. It doesn't take any of my mental bandwidth, but you know what it does take away from me? Time.
Wow.
I've also managed to build 4 businesses outside of that, which need my nurturing, and they're things that I love doing. So the full-time salary that I was earning, yeah, it's great. And it allowed me to get into a really good financial position, but I need that time for me more than I need that money. My ultimate goal with this move is to not fill those 30 hours, just to get them back, take them back,
Right.
mine. So
yeah,
you don't need to be working 100 hours a week as a trainer. If you do it right, man, if any, the scalability of your income is almost infinite.
Does it affect you also in your training sessions, your own personal training sessions?
That's one area where, like, I think I've done a very good job. Like, I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. So When I train, it's just training. I don't answer client DMs. I don't do any of that stuff.
You shut it off.
I don't shut it off. I'm just good at just not looking at it.
Oh, wow.
But the way in which it might have impacted is like when I was coaching in person, absolutely it impacted me. Getting like, I think one day we figured it out, myself and my business, my co-head coach when I was at Robert Morris. Like, I wonder how much weight we lift outside of our workouts. Like putting away 45-pound plates.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It was something like 160,000 pounds. So you think about that plus your own training, plus you're probably walking 20,000 steps a day. It adds up. So that definitely weighed on my training. But I very much value my training as my own time. I wouldn't say that it's like, training is my therapy, because I think that's a huge fucking cop out. But it definitely is meditative. I do get into a really good flow state when I'm training. So yeah, I think that's why I've stuck with training so long. Like I could have quit 100 times, like especially in the last 5 years, man. Like
you're doing it. And
it's brushing my teeth right now. Like it's like training is brushing my teeth.
Right. For me has been like hard to be able to switch from one task to the next. So for example, if I'm doing a marketing task and I'm putting up some Facebook ads, and then I have to go in there and, you have to research the click funnels. You have to research the Hormozy. You have to listen to them. Yeah, you have to make sure that you do it correctly, because you could lose a lot of money doing the wrong ad spend on Instagram, Facebook, especially when you're in the fitness industry, that there's, everyone can put an ad up and anyone can put up some great content and creative. But then going from that to you have a client in 10 minutes, then going from that to, hey, you have an hour between this client and this client. Now you got to work out. So throwing that warm up, and then us as coaches is like, man, I feel tight on my left hip, which is probably a compression and expansion piece and my this and my that. And 45 minutes into trying to find some Camperini deadlift or RDL variation that helps you, you're warmed up, ready to go. You start hitting the squats. Hey, your client's here. Go warm up for 10 minutes. I got you. It just becomes it becomes that journey of becoming a coach, and where you want to go from here and how you want to organize it. I think prioritizing is what you're doing, and you're able to compartmentalize each thing and just switch from one task to the next. I think that's a skill.
It comes with practice for sure. I also have strategies built in place. Like we're in my office right now.
Yeah.
When I close the door to my office, I'm not thinking about work, because my office, I'm in my house. Imagine if I didn't compartmentalize. Right. I'm in my house, dude.
Yeah. Like we're right now in our break room. Yeah. But we have to do it, because if not, we'll never get it done. We talked about that.
Yeah. So like if you're in your break room now and that's where you get your work done, as soon as you go out onto the floor, something different. One thing that I did when I was at Queens here in Canada is like I had my rack. It's like that was the rack that I trained on. If I was in the rack, I was training. If I was outside the rack, anything goes. So here in my home, I have my personal laptop, my other screen. I have my work laptop, my other screen. I'm at my desk. Okay. My dogs have a bed, they can chill. As soon as I leave this room and close the door, work is done. I don't bring my laptop out of my room, out of my office. It stays in my office. That's where I work. When I'm eating, I'm at my dinner table. When I'm watching TV, I'm on my couch. I have a TV in my bedroom, but I never use it. When I'm in my bedroom, I'm sleeping or I'm with my girlfriend. Like that's you have to have some separation. I have the gym downstairs. One of my biggest pet peeves about my own gym is I don't have a door. So what I do is I will usually finish work around 4. I'll sip a pre-workout while I answer a couple emails. As soon as the pre-workout's done, I leave my house and I go for a walk around the block. As soon as I walk back in my door, I go downstairs. So there's a distinct separation or like buffer zone,
right?
Whether it be a door, whether it be a room, where this starts, this ends. So that's wow. I know, like Jordan Shallow and I were chatting one day, and he has when he was living in California, he had this like tiny little shoebox apartment. and his dining table was lawn chair, like lawn equipment. So
Yeah.
he sat in one chair to eat, he sat in one chair to work, and then he didn't have two other chairs.
Oh,
So he
wow.
had to alternate what chair was for what.
Well,
And
I mean, mentally, I believe it does something. You know, it changes that, it charges that switch and just flips it. It's like, all right, let's flip the switch. This is the chair for this. This is the time for this. And I think that that's what we were having. We didn't have time to do these, you know, talks and podcasts and a lot of the questions that I wanted to make to other coaches and clients and athletes. And then it was suddenly like, well, we have to figure it out for now.
mm-hmm.
And then eventually be able to flip the switch over and over again. Like what you're saying is practice also. So there's practice, there's also a routine into it and buffer zones that need to happen. And we'll, you know, I guess we'll learn them over time and start implementing them, you know?
Another thing I think people forget or they are ignorant to is how much time is wasted. Yeah. How much time you actually waste, like dug in your phone. Like you pull out your phone to check your iHealth app. It's like, how many steps am I at today? Well, I check my iHealth and then I check Instagram and then I check this and then I check that. It's like, bro, just check your iHealth and put it away. So one thing that I was doing before, and it kind of became a habit, so I don't have to do anymore, is I would set an alarm for 45 minutes and I would not look at my phone until like 45 minutes went off. So you get 45 minutes of uninterrupted work. And if you are someone who works very efficiently, 45 minutes, you can accomplish a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like I could probably do like 6 to 8 client check-ins for nutrition in 45 minutes. So like, that's a good amount of work. And then that's one thing. The other thing is making an appointment with yourself. Same way you would make an appointment with your clients, make an appointment with yourself. Like, oh, I have an appointment with Paul to train for 2 hours. Okay, that's my appointment. I used to, when I was in the thick of like, when I was still living in Calgary with my ex-wife and things were pretty bad from like a mental health standpoint, I actually would plan naps. I would schedule naps.
Wow.
I would be like, okay, I'm going to work from this time to this time, because my anxiety was so bad that I couldn't hold myself to any sort of schedule in my head. I had to have it written down. So I'd be like, okay, you're going to wake up at 4. You're going to read for 20 minutes. You're going to journal for 20 minutes. And I would set timers for everything. And then got to the point where it's like, okay, 11 a.m., 20-minute nap, set your timer, lie down.
That's amazing.
Everything was on a timer. And it's something that I did when I was in grad school. So I was like, all right, you're up at 3:30 in the morning. You're at the facility by 5. You're coaching from 5 to 11. From 11 to 1, you're training. At 1, you're going to go study for 2 hours. Then you're going to go home. You're going to get some food. Then you're come back for class. Like everything had to be on a timer. So like even my meals, my fucking bathroom breaks, you have to be like that. If you want to achieve like things that people haven't achieved, as corny as it sounds, you have to do shit they are not willing to do.
Yeah, without going into the hustle hard mentality.
Exactly, because you're doing it for you. It's an investment. People are like, oh, I sacrificed this. The premise of sacrifice is you get nothing in return, you selfish fuck. It's not a sacrifice if you get something in return. If you're doing something if you're putting out for the input, yeah, it's an investment.
Right.
You're investing your time into something great. And when you do that immediately, what's the connotation of sacrifice or investment? Which one is more positive? Yeah. Which one is more controlling, right? The investment, like I have control of this investment. Oh,
sorry.
Whereas a sacrifice, you're like, it's more like woe is me, right? It's like, oh, I'm sacrificing. No, you're not.
So you're investing in yourself is organizing your time. It's finding those buffer zones. Is that what you're saying?
It's self-care. Investing your time is self-care.
Right. Okay. And now sometimes you go through, do you ever go through training slumps where you don't want to train?
Yeah.
And what do you do then? What do you do? Because we get clients like that, and people come to the gym and we see them all the time and we train them, and they want to perform like a top performer, 12 months out of the year, 365 days. Sundays off means like, I'm going to go for a jog because I felt great. So it was like, it's like we see them go through the training slump and not be able to get out because they don't know. So we try telling people like, look, you have to have certain cycles where you have to back off a little bit out of what you're doing, and not necessarily back off the gym, just back off the amount of heavy resistance loading that you're probably doing to yourself is not only up, right?
I think it has to do more with the pressure that you place upon yourself. Like there needs to be time where you back off and you go through the motions. Like I think that's a valuable thing to do, is like just training for the sake of training. I definitely go through periods where I don't want to train. For the better part of the last, 5 years, I've been injured. Like I started off 2016, I had knee surgery. I came back, I had 2 pretty good meets, tore my pec, tore my quad, tore my other quad.
Wow.
Like I tore my IT band. I've had chronic knee pain. But training is it's part of who I am. It's part of what I do. So I'm always going to be in the gym training. And yeah, there's probably a little bit of disordered habits going on in there, but I think there's worse habits to have. I've learned how to harness it. I've learned how to approach it in a much more healthy manner. And the lessons learned, again, it's like, if I cannot, if I can't convince myself to train, how can I convince someone else to train? And I always come back to like that. Maybe that's my why, or whatever you want to call it. But like, if I want my clients to be the best selves, I need to be my best self. And part of being my best self means training.
Right.
The conversation of like motivation versus discipline, I don't think it's either, because it's a habit. It's like, nope. Like right now I'm training on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the week. I go train at 4 p.m. On the weekend, at some point I will train on Saturday and Sunday, depending on the schedule, but I'm always going to be training.
And you're going to go through the training slumps and the injuries. And that's how do you pick yourself back up when you're emotionally not into the gym because of your injury or because of whatever reason? Maybe people are tired sometimes and that week is not the same as the other weeks, or they get to the gym, they warm up and they still don't feel like they want. It's like, I don't know if you've ever had that with a top athlete or yourself, where it's like almost like you don't want to lift because you wish you could do it another way, but you can't. It's just not feeling right.
Man, I wish that I could train differently than I do right now, like all the time. Like I can't do more than 3 working sets of squats a week without knee pain, right? Like, and squatting is my favorite movement, but I know that this is what I can tolerate right now, and it keeps me in the gym. I think a lot of people don't realize that like the longer you're in this and the higher level you get, you're going to have more bad days than good days. And you're going to have more days where you don't want to train than you do.
Right.
But no matter what, if you're in the gym working, you're going to be making improvements, or at the very least, you're not going to be moving backwards.
Right. And a lot of it now, like I just programmed a deload week for my clients online, and they hate me for it. They're like, why are you giving me less work? I'm like, it's been like almost 15 weeks. I need to give you some less work. But, I think it's that understanding that concept of being able to undulate on your training. I think it's very important for some people,
It's absolutely important from a physiological perspective, like you're trying to decay fatigue. But there's also times when your life needs to take precedent over your training. Like you need to focus on your business, and maybe you don't have 3 hours to train, you only have 2, or you only have an hour and a half, or whatever it might be. Or maybe you can't afford to be walking around sore all the time because you want to play with your kids.
Right.
The other thing I'll say is that, the aspect of novelty in training is so underutilized. People are so unwilling to change the way they do things because unfortunately it's because it's the only way they know how to do things. Well, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more different ways you can skin a cat. So if you're bored doing what you're doing, you still want to get stronger. Well, there's 100 million different ways to get stronger. Why don't we try a different approach and then roll with that? Like for me, there's a novelty now where like I have access to some machines where I haven't had the access before. So I'm like, sick. Like this is a new novelty that I can throw into my training. I'm messing with some hypertrophy principles, trying some different things with myself and my clients, seeing where they work out. And like, that's novelty. It's keeping things interesting, where I might not mentally want to be in training every day. I'm still going to
Right.
go do it because I got to.
Yeah. And I think that's where the last question comes in, because there's a lot of clients that they're out there on their own and they have no idea how and what to do anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they hear the, you always got to switch up your workouts or your body will get used to it and nothing will happen ever. There's also the notion of you have to do fasted cardio every day for an hour. There's also the notion of take, all the fat burners you can, see which one works best, because fat burners are the way to burn fat. Like we hear it all. You've heard it all.
Bro, they're called fat burners. They burn fat.
I mean, the FDA says they're okay. Wait, no, the FDA hasn't checked them, but okay. Yeah. All right. So let me see, like, what advice do you have? Like, if you had a banner for the fitness highways on every gym, you had a banner and it could only give one advice to the novice people in gyms, the novice person that walks in and wants to do the powerlifting or wants to do the CrossFit or wants to do the hypertrophy, whatever their goal is to be. Because at the end of the day, a lot of the people that walk into fitness is they want a higher status. So they want to have either lift more weight, or they want to be like their friend that's very strong, or they want to get the ladies, or the girls want to have the big butt and everything. They're always like, I want the higher status. I want my body to be better, whatever it is. In a way, a lot of them are novice. What would it say on your banner in every gym?
Have fun.
Oh,
fucking awesome, man.
That's why
have fun, man. Like
that's amazing.
At the end of the day, like, as much as I say, like, yeah, there's times when I don't want to train. Like, anytime I start training, I'm having fun. It might be miserable. I might be in pain. There might be discomfort, whatever. I'm having fun. For some weird reason, I think that's fun.
My teeth are cracking and it hurts. And
everything hurts. My bones hurt. I'm having fun. And at the end of the day, that's where the motivation and discipline comes from. That's where, like, I know that when my training is good, I'm having fun. So if my training is to be good, I need to sleep well. I need to eat well. I need to manage my stress. Training is my anchor. It holds me in place when the seas are rough. And that to me is the value that I see in training in my life. And if I want my life to be stable, I need to keep training. And like, there's been times, after the hybrid showdown last year, I had competed twice in a row. I was going through a divorce. I knew I couldn't, I wanted to compete again, but I knew from a physical perspective, I couldn't do that. So I hired a nutrition coach and my goal was to get as shredded as I possibly could, because I just needed to be working towards a goal. And I knew that if I could do that, I'd be happy. And so I did that. And then, I achieved that goal of body composition that I wanted. I'm like, okay, well, time to push my strength again. But this time I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to manage my nutrition a little bit more closely, manage to maintain my body composition at a pretty solid rate. And guess what? Still training, still having fun. Having fun is the reason why you keep doing it.
Yeah. And you're still an example to a lot of your clients as well.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I think that's probably one of my favorite things that you've probably said and everything. Overall, having fun and liking what you're doing gives you that why. I do it because I'm having fun, because that's who I am, And
I will say that on the flip side of that, if you're trying to push yourself to the highest levels of your performance, physically, mentally, emotionally, it won't be fun.
Right.
But that's a sacrifice that you make, right?
Right.
You can ask anyone who's achieved anything great, if that last couple of weeks of training was fun, they'll probably say no. But the journey is what they found the enjoyment in, right? The big picture is what they found fun. Each individual day probably wasn't.
Right.
I remember I walked off the platform at the 2016 Arnold or 2017 Arnold. And I had just gone 4 for 9. I missed like 3 lifts, like right at lockout. Like I missed my squat. I lost my balance with 850. My deadlift, I missed 750, like an inch from my hip. And my bench, I had a torn pec, so I hit my opener and then I missed my second. But like, I walked off the platform like almost in tears, and Brian Carroll comes over. He was a good friend. He is a good friend of mine, a mentor. And he's like, "It's not fun, is it?" and it was gutty, but those words stuck with me, because in that moment it wasn't fun. But that big journey, everything that led up to that was a lot of fun. Everything that followed it was a lot of fun, and I continue to have fun. So if you're not training for the purpose of having fun, find something else. Go knit.
We had an Olympian yesterday, Weston Zaza. He's a hurdler and a sprinter, and he told us a story where it wasn't fun because he missed. So they pick up the top 3 guys and they take them to Olympics or big championships. The first 2 are taken because they're going to compete. The third one is like, it's a reserve, right? So he lost to the third place by 0.001 of a second. So by 0.0 hundredths of a second,
that's like, that's fast. That's less time than a fart.
Exactly. And I watch these guys give it all on the track. They're with a team here in Miami, and I watch these people being the fastest people in the world, and they're having fun in between or when they're warming up. But when they're training, they're so focused and it hurts so much that they're just quiet. Mm-hmm. And if you're not even around their team, you're just there running on the track for fun, they'll tell you like, hey, get up, stop laying down on the floor. We're all training here. Let's go. It's so focused. And it's fun. But it's tough, Mm-hmm. Some of those times are going to be incredible. I thank you for that, because Paul, not a lot of people understand it from your point of view. A lot of people, like you said, want to do the hustle and do the best and do the biggest and be the baddest. And it's not anything like that. Mm-hmm. Out there. Have to be in front of the crowd, in front of the people, and do the things. It takes a lot of inside to be a lot on the outside. So mm-hmm. people miss that, and they have this emptiness inside, and they want to show by having bright lights, and it doesn't work that way. It's a big engine inside that needs to be worked on and oiled and changed around, changing parts little by little. Mm-hmm. So, man, thank you very much, Paul. I don't want to take too much of your time there. I think all the questions have been answered greatly. I think you're an amazing person, and we're going to keep studying on Coach's Corner. We're going to keep following you, and I recommend everybody to follow you. What things do you want to tell people? Like, follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Paul ONEID, PAULONEID, at Coach's Corner U. We're actually running a 14-day free trial now for all new members of Coach's Corner. You can also follow my business page at Master Athletic Performance, as well as what else? MetriLife, my app. So that's at MetriLife _, METRILIFE _. And my sponsors, Bacon and Barbells Clothing and Subject Zero Subs. Use code Paul10 to save some money on those. Perfect. I'll tag them all on the post, and I'll put this. You have a YouTube channel or anything like that? Master Athletic has a YouTube channel. So myself and my buddy Andrew Serrano, we're posting weekly conversations with one another called Through the Static, where we talk about different things regarding fitness, the fitness industry, and how to root through the signal for the noise, right? Root through the noise for the signal. Awesome. I got you. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate your time. You have a wonderful day. My pleasure. Rob, I can't believe he talked that much. He's amazing. No. He just interrupted the whole podcast. All good, man. He's just taking it all in, taking in the ambiance. Yeah. Jeez, man. He's letting it marinate. Josh. Shut up. Okay. I wanted you just to meet Lalo. Lalo's a great person, man, and I just wanted him to really meet my mentor, Yeah. I know I wasn't the best of athletes, but not too much pressure on yourself. No, man. No. But
thank you, Paul, for everything you've done. You know,
My
you've
pleasure.
really made an impact in my life, you know, and you've definitely have helped me when it comes to coaching, running my business. And I can never thank you for that.
My pleasure, man. Anything
You're
you need, let me know.
now.
Yeah, it's not enough.
You thank me right now. We're good.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Yes.
Appreciate your
My
time,
pleasure.
man. Take care.
Take care.